I was wondering, it's further. How far?
How's your weekend?
Good. 4.5 miles, quarter mile.
Good.
Did you just forget everything and
No.
leave work at work? And
I do work at home.
you need to leave work at work.
I gave plasma again on Friday.
You did?
I got my test results, so I still have antibodies, so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So they give you like a couple thousand.
Well, they got 911 out for the last of the parish suspension. That takes a while.
An hour, 2 hours?
Occasional full from
Yes. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to go down.
Very exciting.
Good morning. I got to get all my stuff together here. It is Monday, December 7th. Oh, that's a huge day. in American history?
Pearl Harbor Day, 1941.
Pearl Harbor Day.
Go Navy, I was in the Navy.
I was too.
In
Well,
fact,
there you go. Thank you for your
just
service.
looked on my Intrepid calendar. I was on the Intrepid, and the keel for the Intrepid was laid on December 1st, 1941, 6 days before Pearl Harbor.
So we did Vietnam?
Huh? I was in during Vietnam, but I was always stationed on the East Coast. We went in the Mediterranean, the North Atlantic, and Caribbean.
Oh, so yours was a vacation.
Well, up in the North Atlantic, when the wind's blowing across the deck at 60 miles an hour and it's 15 degrees, that's not really a vacation.
Okay. We are here, Commissioner Van Beek, Commissioner White, Commissioner Dale, all three, and we are here in the Commissioner's meeting room. Monica Reeves is doing the deputy clerk duties for us today. Tricia Nielsen, who is the director of DSD, is with us. Dan Lister, who is planner with DSD for Canyon County, is joined us by WebEx. I don't see anybody else joined on. Do you have anybody, Monica?
Just Livestream.
Okay. So, we do have, it is a public hearing, as I said, and it's to consider a request by Ed Bowman for a preliminary plat with irrigation and drainage plan for Spring Hill Ranch Subdivision, case number SD 20200010. And we do have people here with us that wish to speak, so we've got to swear you in. Let me see, Kurt Smith, you're not, you do wish to speak.
I forgot to check the speaker.
You didn't check the box. That's okay. I think Monica told me you did. So, and Ed Bowman, you wish to speak?
I don't know that I need to speak.
Well,
Available to speak.
okay, then we'll swear you in.
Okay.
Penelope? Okay, and we'll get you sworn in as well. Pronounce your last name. Konstanecki? Okay. That's just very good. Thank you. Okay, Monica.
Dan Lister, Penelope Constantine, Ed Bowman, Kurt Smith, Tricia Nielsen, do you swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? So help you God?
I do.
Okay, Dan.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Dan Lister, Planner 2 for Canyon County Development Services. Before you today is a preliminary plat with drainage and irrigation plan. The plat is called Spring Hill Ranch Subdivision. This will be a 27-lot subdivision with one common lot. To start the background, this came before you in 2019 as a conditional rezone. This property you see on the screen, it was approved as a conditional rezone to an R1 zone, subject to conditions. The conditions were you can't exceed 27 buildable lots, and that there's special setbacks along the property, and I'll draw it right here, this property right here. So in green, it was agreed upon then that they would maintain instead of a 20-foot rear setback, they would maintain a 30-foot setback, and then also instead of a 10-foot side, they would maintain a 20-foot side against that property. And the rest of it is kind of standard conditions for that rezone regarding irrigation and things of that matter, and providing a stub, actually, too. There's a stub requirement. So as we go into the plat here, as you see on the screen, this is a 35.86 acre property. Again, they agreed to, they show 27 lots, buildable lots as demonstrated, as required by the conditional rezone. These will be all internal public roads through this subdivision. As you see on the screen, Canyon Highway District has approved this subject to conditions. As you see, also there's a stub going south as required by the conditional rezone. The average lot size is 1.11 acres. Water is domestic wells. This is in city of Middleton's city impact area. They did not provide a comment. This is also in Middleton's jurisdiction, or Middleton Fire District's jurisdiction. Also, no comments were received from that jurisdiction. Sewage disposal would be individual septics. Irrigation will be provided by Black Canyon Irrigation. They do have surface water rights. They plan to install pressurized irrigation to all lots. Stormwater runoff shall be maintained on site by means of drainage swells and stormwater retention swells. There's a large one that goes throughout the property right down here. That's a horrible line I just drew, but that is a drainage ditch for that subdivision, ways to maintain the stormwater drainage for the subdivision, as well as each individual owner's responsibility for each of their lots to maintain their own stormwater runoff. This is in a floodplain. As you see in your staff report, this is in an A zone. A zone is an area that's not been studied. It's just there's something there historically that has been deemed to be a flood area until it's been studied. Our code says that at the time of subdivision, if it's over 5 acres or 5 acres area to be developed or 50 lots, they have to do a base flood elevation study. As you see to the kind of in the middle there, you can see they did their study. They're in the middle of finishing it up with FEMA. At the moment that this is what it looks like, it does show that most of the subdivision would be located outside of the floodplain at the end of the day, except where the Hartley Gulch runs through the property, and that's where the main flood area is. So that is showing that at the end of the day, when it comes back from final plat, they will have this approval by FEMA, and it would look something similar to this. So there would be no lots affected by the floodplain. As you see, most of it is located outside of the floodplain at the end of the study. Comments, we received comments from Canyon Highway District number 4. Again, this is an approval subject to conditions. If I remember correctly, the conditions are minor. There's just some little changes they want, and I think Kurt Smith can address some of those, and I think a lot of those have been addressed. I know he's been working pretty hard with the Highway District. Southwest District Health provided information showed that the NP study has been approved by DEQ and Southwest District Health, and that they found that the lot sizes to be fine for this preliminary plat. We did receive a letter in your packet from a Terry Farrell, and that letter basically describes their concerns about the plat. I'm trying to get it in front of me here. I'm sorry. And they're showing basically their pictures of their view that would be impacted by this, and they are requiring perhaps privacy fencing along their area. And I marked it off where the property that has those concerns. So let me just get to the end here. We're recommending approval of this preliminary plat. But during the October 1st, 2020 Planning and Zoning Commission, they also recommended approval subject to the conditions on your screen that were recommended by staff, but they also added 2 conditions, 10 and 11, which were to add a 6-foot white vinyl fence on lots 22 and 23. And let me go back to that other screen real quick. So they're basically recommending that a white vinyl fence go along this area only of the subdivision, based on the concerns by Mr. Farrell. And then the other condition is just that the stormwater easement that I showed you with that big long line be maintained by the homeowners association or some type of maintenance agreement. The applicants at the time of that hearing did not seem to be concerned about those conditions. With that being said, staff is recommending approval subject to the conditions you see on the screen. Staff has a late exhibit, which is this PowerPoint presentation, which should be Exhibit 9. And this concludes staff's presentation and open for any questions you may have.
I have a question, Dan. I noticed that it says on the front the front page that it's a plot consists of 27 residential lots and 1 common lot. But if you turn over to Exhibit 1 and it's page 1, it's findings of facts and everything. Number 3, the subdivision contains 27 residential lots and 2 common lots.
Okay.
So
And
I don't
that
know
might
if that
be...
is a typo, because then it refers to attachment A.
Okay. Yeah, let me pull my plans up. I'm pretty sure that might be a typo.
Okay.
But let me just check real quick. So no, it's not a typo. It's just, it is 2 common lots. It's just, and I'll just draw it out just to
Okay.
clarify that. So this would be
Thank you.
1, and then the street here separates it, and then this would be number 2. So it's all along the front there, but because of the street
Okay.
going through, they had to separate it out.
Okay. So it's not a park or a play yard or something. That's
Common ground,
okay. Common area. Okay. Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Van
problem.
Beek.
Madam Chair. Dan, as long as you have this map up for that ditch that they want the homeowners associated, that runs along that front and mitigates for the floodplain area. Is that right, on the west of this map?
Yeah, let me get this is probably a better view of it. So you can see that the ditch going through, and that's the Hartley Gulch going through there.
And is that represented by the blue colors? Is that...
Yeah, so the blue color is what our current maps show of the A zone, the floodplain. And that just means they show it that far out because it's unstudied. So it's just based on the potential of that flooding without knowing, it being studied. So as part of the subdivision, the outcome of the study that they had to do is showing that the actual flood hazard area stays within Hartley Gulch and doesn't go out that far out. And so they're currently working with FEMA, and as part of the conditions of approval, they have to have all that approved prior to final plat approval. So this is just the study that they have submitted to FEMA. We have to wait for the approval. And so they're able to do this during the preliminary plat and the final, but before final, they would have the final approval of the study, which would look something similar to this.
So if we overlay those 2 maps, what we see is that it looks like that some of those lots would be affected, but because of the study that they're doing, that area in the front and to the west of the Hartley
Gulch
Road would be what contains the potential flooding in the event that happens. Is that right? And then I have another question on the second part, but I'll let you answer that one first.
Correct. And if you have any questions regarding that study, Kurt Smith is in there, the engineer, who could probably answer some more questions regarding that type of study. But based on the study that they provided, it shows that within the subdivision, the floodplain stays within the gulch and doesn't exceed out into the other lots. So they would, at the end of the day, be outside of the floodplain.
Okay. And then when you were drawing that line that runs north and south, on the south part of that map, did I read that right, that that's designated for future turn lanes into the subdivision? Is that right? And can you identify the sub area on the south portion of the property?
Sorry, you're coming through kind of muddled on my headset here, so I didn't hear what you stated.
On the south portion of the property where that little green line is,
yeah.
Is that dedicated for a future turn lane is the first question. I thought I read that in there. And then on where is the stub portion on the south, if you could just highlight that on the south end of the property.
So, okay. So I'm just trying to see here. So south end of the property, are you talking about the stub road? I'm sorry,
Yeah. That is future dedicated turn lane on the south. Okay. Okay,
there's
thank you
the
for
stub
that.
road there, yeah.
And then is that little green line to the left is that a future turn lane somewhere?
No,
Where's that future?
it's just this portion here. Let me just erase it and put it back on.
Okay.
That's just a common lot. So, I think Kurt might be able to answer this, but basically the common lot is, a portion of the area that eventually, I think when the highway district makes, improvements in the future, this is where that Hartley Gulch, I think there's space there to allow for, relocation or some improvements in the future. So they have a common area set aside for that.
Thank you.
So they're showing the prescriptive easement and then future relocation.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Dale?
Hey, Dan, are you able to show, I thought I knew where it was, but can you show us where the Black Canyon irrigation water comes into this area, where they're accessing that?
Yeah,
Curious
let me,
about where that is. I didn't see it on my map.
yeah, let's see if I have,
Southeast corner?
yeah, I'm trying to, so the southeast corner, see here.
So there's a canal somewhere there, I'm assuming.
Yeah, there's the Hartley Gulch right through here.
Yeah.
And so it's a southeast corner from there.
Maybe we can get that from the engineer, yeah.
And I have one more
no.
question, Dan. Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I was going to show you, the irrigation pump easement for this is shown right here. It's down here. Oh, come on, pen, work. It's down here.
Okay. I was just looking for the canal. I didn't see it in there, but anyway. All right. We'll get that later. Okay.
Another question I have, Dan, is on the Keller's Associates on their first item. I don't know, this might be something that's taken care of later, but it's references, and it says Hoshaw Drain on the plat. Or there is the Hartley Gulch. So I'm not sure on that one either. That's one of their things. They wanted the sheet note signed or the plat to be consistent. Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So they showed the Hartley Gulch, but the note 9 says Hoshaw Drain. So
yes.
Yeah. So our engineer says you just need to correct that, update that note to be consistent with what drain you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Anything else for Dan at this time?
I just have one more question. On the staff report for planning and zoning and that additional plat note that was put on there about a fence, we've had a number of issues come up with plat notes, and so okay, so Dan, can you go to the slide that shows what the PNC added? Okay. And so I guess I'm just wondering, the concerns from on Exhibit 8 from the neighbor that was there and the short length of the fence, and maybe that's something for deliberation, but sometimes people don't like development and so they want to be separated, but then they end up not minding the development. I guess I'm just wondering the persuasion on that short piece. I know he has some concerns about his taxes and got an increased setback and then he wants to fence. And can you talk that out just a little bit? How big is
two different areas? Yeah. I think the increased setback is a separate area from the fence. That's up north and the fence is down south.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification. So, Mr. Friel's property is in the southeast corner?
Correct.
His up in, okay.
And so, yeah, that's why it's brought up. That's just a recommendation by the P&Z. Again, those lots, if you look at the lots that would essentially be in front of that, let me go to a better screen here. Yeah, these are a little over 1 acre lots that are going to be along Mr. Theo's property. Let me just try to draw that out if my pen will work. All right. So it was just this line right here. That's the only fencing area that would, based on that condition, that's where the fence would go. Based on the sizing of those lots right there, more than likely the houses would be located back somewhere over here away, just to meet setbacks. And so, even so, this area, the setbacks to that fence line is 20 feet, so that dwelling or any accessory structures would not be within, it may at least be 20 feet away from that property line. And so the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends that condition. However, it's up to the board if they want to continue with that condition or not.
And for the property in the northeast corner, was there any objection raised by that property owner?
During the rezone application, there was, if you remember, and that's how we got to that condition for additional setbacks. And that's why, and so as a plat note, it references that condition and those lots having to meet a certain setback.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, anything more for Dan? Thank you, Dan, very much. At this time, we'll call Kurt. Who is Penelope? I'm sorry. We'll go ahead. Your name and address, please.
Penelope Constantine, Post Office Box 405, Boise, Idaho 82701. Thank you for your time this morning. The applicant is appropriate to have a staff report and are in agreement with the findings and staff recommended conditions of approval. Although I do want to reserve a little time to talk about that then. And for the Spring Hill Ranch preliminary plat, the engineer, as you know, is also present this morning, and he's been very professional and responsive in dealing with the reviewing agencies. So it's nice to work with someone who does that. The Planning and Zoning Commission considered the 27 lots, the average lot size, the NP study, the use of extended treatment systems, the swale maintenance, subdivision elements to be covered in the CC&R, the Heartland Drain, special setback, and the fencing for the neighbor, Mr. Frail, as well as the substreet to the south. I did want to mention that the applicant is interested in maybe having a more relaxed approach to the fence material and color, so that he can remain open with regard to that. I would like to note that the fence will probably do more to obstruct Mr. Frail's view than anything else. So it's perhaps we can bypass that condition of approval. The Middleton Fire Department has not been very responsive, which is understandable given conditions right now, but I'll continue to reach out to them to make sure that they don't have any comments. The NP study has been fully reviewed, as you know, and the NPQ has approved the nutrient pathogen evaluation in their October 21st memorandum. Mr. Smith is here, and he can address the ditch and the floodplain questions. I just wanted to reiterate that the FEMA map that was created by Mr. Gephardt shows that the hazard does not extend into any of the building lots closed in the Heartland Drain. The Spring Hill Ranch preliminary plat conforms with the development agreement and the zoning designation. All the requirements of other regulating agencies have been incorporated into the preliminary plat. Right of way for the future widening of Freeze Out Road has been provided with the plat and will be dedicated for future road improvements. Continuing on that, the highway district will be moving the drain when the road is widened in the future, so that will just be static for a while. The Harley Drain license agreement is in place and plans for the access road crossing are in process. Additional comments requested by FEMA have been provided and include a finding that the proposed subdivision will not increase the West Hartley Gulch flood hazard. And I'd like to just request that fencing be considered a little bit more carefully. And generally, fencing is at the discretion of the property owners, folks that build their homes there. The irrigation, water, and the pump station are located on the east property line, and the ditch will be closed as a part of the plat. And just a final comment, the plat will be refined a little further, and notes will be updated prior to final plat submittal. With everything in place or in process to successfully complete Spring Hill Ranch subdivision, for approval is respectfully requested.
Thank you. With regard to the fencing, is that the lot, the gentleman or the neighbor that's requesting this, is his lot fully fenced, and this would be, and he's left the back open, but everything else is fenced in? Do you know?
I apologize. I don't know if the other side of the lot.
Okay. Okay, maybe one of the other two. And then, are you suggesting if you are going to put fence, are you thinking of something like a 3-rail, white vinyl, or something like that instead of a solid 6-foot white vinyl?
That would be an option. I think maybe white is so
stark
that the applicant would like to have a little bit of discretion on what's constructed and what material.
Okay.
So that it satisfies everyone and not just Mr.
Okay.
I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair. Thank you. So for the ditch that's enclosed, can you just put on the record that it's going to require that the homeowners that have that going through there maintain that? Is that correct? Yes, ma'am. According to Idaho law, you can't obstruct the delivery of water to anyone upstream or downstream. So all of those provisions will be appropriate. So that won't fall on Black Canyon. That's going to fall on the homeowner. That it'll fall on the developer to enclose it, make those improvements. Okay. And you'll be overseeing the size, and so that when that passes through, that there's adequate water past that and all of that. Chairman, Commissioner. Yes, that will be sized appropriately. The engineer will work with the irrigation district to make sure that what is in place is appropriate and functions correctly. Okay, and I appreciate that. And then on the extended sewage treatment systems that are required and then required to be inspected annually, so who's going to drive the annual inspections, and can you talk a little bit more about that? Sure, Commissioner. My understanding is that that you contract with a professional maintenance company, and I would assume that that requirement will also be stipulated in the HOA, the CCNRs, so that all of the property owners are aware of their responsibility. I appreciate you putting that on the record. Thank you.
Anything else?
Just regard to like the fence, basically you never see a vinyl fence that's not white. Are there other options like tan or beige or off-white or something?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, yes, there are many options for color.
Okay.
And design.
Yeah. All right. I appreciate that, because that is something that I've noticed that often if I had a stark white fence in the back of my lot, that's pretty reflective, and if you could get something that was a little more muted, that would be more I would say enjoyable, if the fence can be enjoyable. So.
Well, if I might add.
Well, wait till you get up here. Yeah.
We'll get on record. So, Tricia.
Yes, Madam Chair, just look on Google Maps for the record, and Mr. Field's property just has some open fencing around it.
Okay.
And clear view of the cornfield, whatever. I think that's a pretty current photo. But they just have, I just call it open fencing, kind of a wood border with a wire.
Okay.
One more question. So on the property, the concern for Mr. Friel was that his values would be affected. Can you put on the record what kind of development you anticipate this to be with this R1 zone? Madam Chair, Commissioner, I would perhaps let the applicant address that. I don't know what price point they're looking at. But this is generally, they actually end up being fairly upscale because the size of the lot and, the cost of building, I would anticipate that, actually, I've been doing land planning work for more than 20 years, and property values will plummet is a common concern that we hear. And from a real estate agent perspective, which I was for many years, when an appraiser is valuing your property, if they don't have anything to pick from as a comparable that's anywhere near your property, it actually damages your property value more than else. So having additional nice homes in the vicinity stabilizes property values better than anything.
Thank you.
From your comments, I'm concluding that Mr. Field's property is a quality home that will be surrounded by other quality homes at this level. That's my understanding. Thank you.
Okay, anything more?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'm looking at the maps here, and Mr. Friel, his property, his house is a long ways from where this property would be, and his back, all that ground going up to that's just really spotted looking pasture. I don't quite understand his concern with wanting a solid fence back there, but I just thought I'd note that his house is quite a ways away from that back property line. I don't see that there's a big deal there. But
I think that his more was he was worried about his view. That was not, so what was going to go to.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Just a general comment. When things change in your neighborhood, it's always concerning.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that neighbors ask for things that out of default, they're reacting rather than thinking about what the long-term consequences of what they're asking for are. And as I stated before, I think a fence will do more to obstruct his view than anything else. So, a tree rail fence, whatever the property owners, the new homeowners next door. Fences make good neighbors, they say, but they don't have to be a solid white fence that basically obstructs everyone's view.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, Kurt Smith, need your name and address, please.
I guess it's still morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Commissioner, Council. My name's Kurt Smith. I live at 2587 Southside Boulevard. I'm licensed to practice engineering in the state of Idaho, and I'm the project engineer for this project. I guess I'd like to answer some of your questions that came up. The Highway District, we've been working with them on this project, and they see the necessity when they widen Freeze-Out Road that they're going to need to move the Hartley Drain eventually. And so they've asked us to give them 50 feet of land so that they'd have room to do that with their
How many feet?
land, 50 feet. So along Freeze-Out Road, we're not only widening the road to 50 feet, but we're adding an extra 50 feet for the future improvements they're planning. The 600-foot turn lane that they're asking for is actually for Purple Sage Road, the intersection of Purple Sage and Freeze-Out. That area that I've described will also allow for that to be constructed in the future. And so we're not planning a turn lane where we're tying into Freeze-Out Road. The Highway District, at the time they moved the goals and improved Freeze-Out, will do all that improvement. They've actually asked us, or let us know that we don't have to do anything except give them the land on Freeze-Out. Purple Sage will have to add, we'll have to widen the road to a 3-lane section, and we'll be responsible to do that and plan for that future connection that they will make at such time they decide that it needs to be done. As far as the flood goes, Dan, could you, he looks busy. Could you go to that floodplain? Just yeah. You see the blue area there in the bottom right? That was the county's best guess without any information, and it's very conservative. When we did our study, the gray area in the map in the middle is where 100-year flood will be. You can see there that the culvert at Purple Sage and Freeze Out there is a little size too small, so it backs up the water there. It actually pushes water to the west, keeping it off our property, and that's where you get the flood to the west of Freeze Out Road. There is a very small section in the southeast corner there that does back up into our property, but we can alleviate that through our letter of map revision through FEMA by adding a little fill to that. And so at the end of the day, the floodplain isn't going to affect any buildable areas in our buildable lots. Questions about the fence I don't know if I got his name right, Terry Realtor? Sorry about that. Anyway, his current fence there is I believe, last I remember, is just a barbed wire field fence. That's usable. That's nothing fancy. So what we end up putting there is certainly going to benefit him, and what his concerns. Hopefully, we'll alleviate those. Irrigation water. Bluff Canyon's irrigation ditch ends at our southeast corner. Its tailwater, of course, is the Hartley Drain. And so there it splits. It goes north along our east side, but it's private. And it continues and waters the 40 acres to our south. But the actual maintained highway or irrigation district ditch ends there in our southeast corner. It's probably 20 feet to our south, but the head gate delivers water that's at the end of the line to us and to the neighbor to the south. So our irrigation pump station is actually located just on the southeast corner of the not apart parcel on the northeast. It's on the southwest, sorry.
Southeast?
It's our pump station will be on the southwest corner.
Southwest corner, okay.
Yes. So it'll be kind of close to the road and more accessible.
Yeah.
It'll still be off the road there. But our east side will have a private user pipe that will carry our water to our pump station. Then it'll take it to the not apart parcel on the northeast corner. And then historically, it's gone along Purple Sage Road to the west and emptied into the Hartley Gulch. And so our pump station will be where I described. We will be piping our water to us and to the neighbor to the northeast, and then it will end up in the Gulch, just like all the waters there. The Holshaw Drain note is an error. I'll have the surveyors go ahead and correct that. I think that's all I had. With that, I would just answer any questions.
Thank you. I don't have any. You answered all my questions. Thank you.
Dr. I was just going to say that what I heard you say on that traffic lanes, which is what I was trying to get to earlier, and you answered the question at Purple Sage and Freeze Out, so that would be the northwest corner. Your commitment is that you've given 50 feet for the road and 50 feet for the turn lane. And then the highway district will be responsible for that build out at the appropriate time when it all.
Pretty close. We've given 50 feet for the road,
yes,
and then another 50 feet for the Holshaw, sorry. Hartley Gulch. The turn lane will be included in that. It's all being dedicated to the highway district. So from the center line, they're getting 100 feet.
okay.
And in that area, they'll have room to do the turn lane at a future date.
Clarification, and again, for the piping on that, from the southwest, it will run east along that property border up to the northwest and then across down to the northeast and then the northwest corner and dump into Hartley Gulch.
You know, our water, yes. It'll be in at the southeast corner. It'll dump in the northeast corner. The path will go up our east side and along our north side.
Okay.
Hartley Drain.
Thank you.
Anything more? No? Thank you very much.
Oh, one other thing.
Oh, sure.
On your, remember, on the first slide of the hearing, there was a typo on the name of the subdivision. There's an S on Hills. It's just Hill. I don't know if that's a big deal, but I thought I'd bring it up.
There's only one hill. There's not multiple hills.
Okay.
Okay.
It's Spring Hill, not Spring Hill.
Okay.
If that makes a difference in the long run.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bowman, do you have anything you like to add?
I can do that. I want to verify something.
You need to come up and,
I can do that.
okay. Oh.
There's Ben Needler and Brian Rollins.
Okay. I'll find out.
Doesn't look like Ben has audio.
Okay. Good morning, Commissioners. Thanks for the opportunity to present. Just a couple of things to add.
Name and address, please.
Yes, Ed Bowman, 2976 East State Street, Eagle, Idaho.
Okay.
What I wanted to add is, as far as, in addition to granting or ceding ground to the Highway Department, we are also required to pay impact fees for those future development of a section of that road along Purple Sage and Freeze Out. The only thing I wanted to add is with respect to the fencing requirement. I agree with Commissioner Dale. To have a stark white fence out there on one section of the property, I think it negates what that homeowner thinks that he wants. It's going to obstruct his view, and he's going to be looking at a white fence instead of looking through. And my personal experience is that it can be very reactionary for adjacent homeowners, and something that they would potentially regret down the road, because they're sitting looking at this white fence as opposed to an additional 20 feet past the property line and potentially further than that with these size lots, where he's going to have, view windows where he's looking through a couple of houses. Quite honestly, he's only going to see two houses. My preference is to do a split rail fence, and my intention was to just outline the two perimeters that are adjacent to the road, and then leave it to homeowners as to how they want to fence interior. They may want wrought iron. We're not going to allow wood fencing, so we're going to, have something that's clean. There are multiple color choices as far as fencing, and a lot of the stuff that is, to me, beige or things in that earth tone color are a little bit more palatable, and they're not so obtrusive. If we are forced to fence that section, then I think I'm going to have to fence that entire eastern boundary. And my feeling is that it detracts as opposed to, is additive to, the desirability for individual homeowners. With respect to his, so with that said, I would request that I don't have to provide that privacy fencing in that section. If I do have to provide it, I would like to not be bound by the color white. Sure.
Aside from accommodating Mr. Friel's desire not to look at your development, is there any other reason this fence is necessary?
Necessary? No, I think homeowners tend to want to fence their property, and the type of fencing that's on a 2-acre lot that was developed 25 to 40 years ago, I don't know the age of that home. I drove back in that development. Our development is going to look and feel a lot like Purple Sage Estate and the acreage lots.
So I don't think people are gonna be putting, you know, that style of fencing up. They'll put something.
Well, my concern would be that if you have this field fence, which is not aesthetically pleasing, and if you have a vinyl fence, and then the property owner chooses to create, you have three fences. So at the end of the day, as Dan would say, what's our objective? If our objective is simply to isolate because we're mad because there's development, I don't see a lot of merit in that argument. And so what I'm asking is the same thing, I guess, that you're now here, record. What the real objective is for that fence. If it's just to appease one person.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, then I would have to question.
And I think his concern for his property values, I was a real estate agent for 7-8 years. I've developed property. I assist real estate with financing. I've been developing residential real estate in the valley here for 15 years. And anytime you have a new development like this come in, it's accretive to his property value. These property values have risen based on new construction, not on resale. That's why there's such a differential between a resale value and a newly constructed home.
And I want to
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
ask another question about the setbacks. You know, Commissioner Dale has provided information that his house is located significantly back from that property line, so to request additional setbacks, and it's 10 feet more than what our ordinance requires, if I understand that correctly.
Well, I think we have two different properties, unless I'm confused.
You're right.
The property that we've agreed to provide additional setback is in that northeast corner.
Okay.
And quite honestly, it was offered as those people bought that house from the property owner that was in a contract to sell the remaining property to me. And we had been in contract for 10 months. But that disclosure was not made by that seller to the buyer. So it was kind of like, wow, we thought we were going to have farm ground. And that's why I said, I get it. I'll just give you additional setback.
Well, I appreciate the clarification because we're talking about the northeast corner and the southeast corner, and there's two things happening. Northeast is an additional setback requirement, and the southeast is a fencing requirement. And I guess both of those present as unneighborly to me because there's a significant amount that's allowed by this ordinance anyway. So thank you for the clarification.
Sure, and I would agree with that. The fencing, to me, is more problematic because it creates a problem for me to have a really cohesive development and to achieve exactly what I'm wanting to achieve. And I believe it was you that asked a question early on about where do we see property values. With current property values right now, I'm assisting with financing of several builders in the South Napa area on these similar sized lots. These houses are $650 to $750. I would anticipate that finished product in this subdivision on these size lots are going to be in that neighborhood.
Yeah, you're not going to get small lots or big lots and build small houses.
No, and we're going to have minimum size requirements that I haven't completely dialed that in, but I'm going to guess that we're probably going to be minimum 2,400 square feet. I think the typical product that builders going to put on there to maximize their value is probably going to be in that 2,800 to 3,200 range.
And I'm going to make a comment for the record, Madam Chair, just my observation that if I'm in those kinds of developments, and I live west of Banbury and that whole development along there, part of the aesthetically pleasing nature of that is being able to see that cohesive. I'd rather see someone's estate than I would a fence. That to me does not present as pleasing as it does just to see somebody else's home.
I would agree, and on those style of homes, a lot of people want to spend the extra dollars to have a wrought iron fence.
And that's
but I would like to have they'll have the opportunity to select that as opposed to look at a white vinyl fence out in the backyard.
Where is the Eagle's Nest subdivision located on this, Dan? Do you know where Eagle's Nest subdivision is?
Sure. I'm not familiar with that.
It's,
Yeah, south in Nebraska.
oh, it's to the east of
The
the,
label there, bisecting on that big property in the middle on the.
oh, yes, okay. That is,
The pink line, but
because he says, in his email, he said he thought the privacy fence between, I think there should be a privacy fence between the Eagle's Nest subdivision and the proposed development. 6 feet high and solid, preferably white vinyl. So that is, I'm thinking it's this another piece over here in the southeast or somewhere. And it's yeah.
Yeah, he's more.
Okay, interesting. Okay. Any more questions for Mr. Bowman? No. Thank you very much. Yes. I've noticed, it's been brought to my attention, there are a couple more people that have joined us on WebEx.
Or did Ben? Yeah, Ben let us know he's just observing, he doesn't want to testify. And then it looks like Brian Rollins dropped off.
Oh, okay, very good. Then we're good to go. No more, I have no one else signed up to speak.
Madam Chair, I'll move we close public comment.
Moved and seconded to close public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I appreciate the time that the applicant has taken to present this package and our staff. I like what they propose. I like what we are looking at, with the exception that I would remove personally the requirement, additional setbacks in the northeast corner and the fencing requirement in the southeast corner, because I don't really see the point other than we're accommodating one person. For 27 people to be subject to 2 people, that ratio is out of balance for me. So,
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just want to comment, the additional setbacks are part of the development agreement. So we would
That's
have
there.
to modify that and do a process. Yeah, it's not a requirement of the plan, like the fence condition.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification.
Madam Chair, if I could add some comments here. I think this is going to be a great development out there. It's ripe for this kind of development. These are going to be quality lots. Anytime you're putting money into an acre plus lot, you're putting some money out just to get in there, and you're going to have a nice development there with some nice homes. I am not a fence person per se. I don't like the idea of putting a solid vinyl fence along that one little section of that east boundary. So I would be in favor of removing that condition altogether and just leave it up to the homeowner and the folks to work it out there. As I looked at the map, and I noted earlier that the backyard of Frio, like cold Frio, he's got plenty of space there separation wise, and putting a fence at the back of that, I don't think he's going to like that result. But I just don't think it's right to do that for that one little section of this. And if the people who move in there want to get together and put some kind of fencing along that back area so that it's consistent in a subdivision, I'd much rather leave that up to the developer and the homeowners who are going to be living there. The rest of it, I think, is really good. This has been well thought out. It's going to be a real asset to the county and to that area, so I'm in favor of this with removal of the fencing requirement.
could I ask, just for discussion on the board side, having heard what our director said, but I understand that that's part of the development agreement and maybe unwinding that, but I guess I'm interested in having a discussion from the board side on what that looks like for that additional setback, just for the same reason. We've heard a number of land use hearings, and this is one in a sea of many that we've looked at, and you know, my signature is on that. I'm not sure I remember having that, all the particulars of that and with that additional setback requirement, but Commissioner Dale is good about getting on the Google Maps. It looks like he has a lot of space around his property, and then with the additional setbacks on that, is there a necessity to leave that? It just seems like those become problematic when we start locking those down, and especially I think that there's a lot of good faith in my opinion on the part of the developer here today. It sounds like he wasn't totally aware of that. I'm just part of the so I'm just interested in discussion.
Madam Chair, I'm not opposed to the 30-foot setback. That's been a good faith offer and put into the development agreement by the property, the developers here. I think, and if you look at that, he's got an acre and a quarter of ground on that lot, and it's a pretty wide lot. There's plenty of space there to build whatever he wants to build, a house and an outbuilding or shed or anything, without going back towards the other property. I don't think it's going to be a hardship at all for that, the way that particular lot is laid out. It's more horizontal than vertically deep. I think that's going to be just fine to leave that in there as rather than redo the development agreement, which creates quite a bit of a delay and hassle moving forward. I'd rather just leave that the way it is.
I think that, thank you, Commissioner Dale. I think you've answered my question that if he wanted to put additional outbuildings or a shop, that he wouldn't be unable to do that with that additional setback.
Yeah. An acre and a quarter is a lot of ground for a residential property.
And yet,
I've got a half an acre, and that's not even half this, and there's plenty of room there. So.
And yet, we had one land use decision where there was a setback, and he was having a difficult time even with
his lot layout was different than this.
Correct.
Yeah.
The questions I had have been answered in the public hearing for this request, and I think that I'm familiar with the work of all three of these people that are here today seeking this. So I'm pretty confident this is going to be a nice, very well designed, well laid out subdivision. And it's Spring Hill Ranch. Okay, so I'll accept a motion.
Okay, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we authorize the board to approve the preliminary plat with irrigation and drainage plan for Spring Hill Ranch subdivision, and also sign the findings of fact conclusions of law and order.
And do you want to?
And with removal of the fencing requirement, which was number 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Moved and seconded to approve. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Thank you very much. Do we have paperwork to sign today, or because we're going to
Signature, separate
that?
conditions. For now, one without.
Wasn't anything in the folder.
Okay.
My version.
Monica?
Thank you very much. Just a second, Dan is here.
All right, thank you.
Monica,
Yes.
I sent the FCOs to you with the removal of condition 10.
Okay.
Oh, very good. Thanks, Dan. That concludes this meeting. Thank you all very much. Merry Christmas.
Spring Hill. I'm reminded of driving through Kansas numerous times, and you enter, there's a place on, I think it's Interstate 8,